All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Steven Senth. I'm over at Chicago Title. I'm down at the Newport Beach office. I am the moderator today. I'm filling in for my colleague and good friend, Ryan Huntsman. Unfortunately, he had a funeral to go to today. So I've been with Chicago Title for a little bit over a year, about a year now. And Chicago Title was my company that I used on all my transactions when I was an owner, operator, broker, lender, and everything. So it was a kind of easy transition for me. But I'm very happy to be here today to moderate this and look forward to going through owner user with each of you. So I'm just going to go around. We have 6 great speakers, including myself, and we'll just go around, do a quick introduction, who you are, who you're with, a little bit about yourself and your company, and then we'll move on to the next. So Peter, we'll start with you.
Peter Yacoub. All right. Well, hey, it's a pleasure to be here with everyone. Thank you, Peter Yacoub from Genesis Bank. We primarily focus on owner user deals here at Genesis, but we also have divisions on the multifamily side, on the investor side. We also have quite a bit of strategic partnerships with some off-balance sheet lenders that we could do some business with. If you need some brain power around structuring a deal, I'm always all about looking for a way to get your deal done. If not, at least give you an option out there in the market, whether through colleagues here in the conference or others outside at different banks nationally. What we do quite a bit of is a lot of consulting and discussions with brokers, clients across the board. Rates are hovering somewhere in say the low 6s. Every once in a while we'll get lucky in the high 5s on a 5 to 10 year term. But we've been here about couple of years. Things are going great, portfolio is growing, and there's a lot of opportunity still in the market. So if you are looking to lend, we will help you find a way to get it done, whether here or off balance sheet. So give me a call. My number's on my page right at the top. So if you have any questions, Peter Yacoub, Genesis Bank. Thanks. We look forward to being with y'all.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. We'll go to Chris at Heinsberg, Mr. Steve Weiler, see what you got. Even though we can't see you, if you can just a brief overview of yourself and what you do over at Key Point.
That's Stephen Weiler with Key Point Credit Union. We're here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've got 2 buckets of money. We lend investment real estate nationwide. We're very tight these days, but we are still lending. We're doing a lot of quick serve restaurants, Taco Bells, Kentucky Fried Chickens, Burger Kings, things like that, KFCs. I guess that is a Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. But today, this group is about investment. So there's a lot more activity these days on owner user, and we have an SBA license. We're a preferred lender with the SBA. We're lending nationwide for SBA loans, and for those we'll pay you up to a 2% rebate. And we need a 51% owner occupancy for the subject building, and we lend up to, quite frankly, 90% or perhaps more. Borrower comes up with 10% down, and perhaps they need some money for working capital or moving costs and stuff like that. So we can lend them additional funds where we might even be in excess of 100% loan to value. And we're only lending under SBA 7A. Those are the variable rate loans, and those are the ones we typically pay. Most of them are priced right now at prime plus 1%. I think prime is at about 8.25%. So those are at about 9.25%. 25-year term, 25-year amortization, and that's where we're paying you a 1 or a 2% rebate on those. And dollar amount can be anywhere from a few $100,000, up to $5 million in SBA financing. So thank you, Stephen Weiler, Key Point Credit Union.
Great, thanks, Stephen. Jay, we'll go off to you.
Thank you, Jay Grenfell with Partner Engineering and Science. We are environmental engineering and energy consultants, doing a lot of transactional due diligence in this space with owner user. Obviously, talk about SBA financing. Some of the requirements of the SBA can be very prescriptive when it comes to environmental. So navigating those various issues and making sure you're meeting the SBA SOP, avoiding screen outs. We have a whole team that specializes in SBA, has relationships with the folks in Sacramento. So we are experts in SBA due diligence and happy to help you there.
Great, thanks, Jay. Cliff Taylor. Go Giants.
Oh yeah, forgot all about that. Yeah, having a pretty good string there. Cliff Taylor, Ready Capital SBA Lending. We are a direct non-bank SBA lender. I think right now at last check, we were either fifth or sixth largest SBA lender in the nation. We are our credit department's probably loosened up a little bit. We are very aggressive on credit right now. We're looking to write more loans. You know, things are a little tougher out there. The rates are up. You know, makes achieving a little debt service a little more challenging. But hey, we'll look at things on a projection basis if we have to. Again, we're looking at owner user type deals, real estate or no real estate business opportunities are fine. No problem with special use type stuff, gas stations, self-storage, hotel, restaurants, you know, things along those lines. We do pay referral fees, and we're nationwide, and we're also, again, we're not a bank, so we are not in competition for your deposits if you're, you know, you got something that your bank doesn't want to take a look at. Anyway, Cliff Taylor, Ready Capital SBA.
Awesome. Thanks.
And go Giants. You know, let's put the hat on. Huh? You know.
And then we'll end off with Randy Jones.
Thank you, Steve. Randy Jones, Spectrum Commercial Lending. We're doing owner user financing, and we're specializing in SBA 504 loans that provide up to 90% financing. We like that meaty B market. You know, the loans that are a little bit more difficult to get done due to tight debt coverage. We'll look at projections, personal credit, and ethic challenges. I mean, for us, as part of my interview process, they asked us if they asked me if I'm a libertarian. I said yes, and they said you're hired because we don't judge deals. We don't judge our clients. I know already told us not to talk about politics, but if nobody tells, then I'm okay. And also we do interesting and unpopular property types. Let's say we do automotive centers, convenience stores, restaurants, gas stations, car washes with gas stations with car washes, hot dog stands on the beach, adult daycare centers. We don't care. We basically won't do anything but hospitality. Not so popular areas, we'll go into Hemet, Chula Vista, Red Bluff, Stockton. We can't do a loan in Barcelona, Spain, but we can do a deal in Barcelona, Arkansas for a borrower who needs to fund a warehouse for their olive oil distribution business. And so we have a national platform going everywhere in the 48 states, sweet spot $750 to $2 million. And you know what's trending right now with us? Well, I'd say a lot of the refinances, like the SBA 504 finance program. We're doing bridge loans that we're taking out, 7A loans with the, you know, that are in the 9s and the 10s. We're looking at that. But so, and then lastly, we also got a program where we're going up to 95%. So if your customers are having a liquidity problem, they can't get that extra 5%, give us a chat, and we'll you know, we'll take a look at that. Randy Jones, Spectrum Commercial Lending.
Perfect. Thanks, Randy. So I appreciate all the speakers for coming out today and then giving a brief overview of who they are and what they do. You know, for owner users, I think one of the big topics, and I think each person really touched base on it, is SBA, you know, 504 versus 7A. So I'd really just love to have a conversation and ask each of you, you know, what are you seeing? What are the differences between 504 and 7A to let everybody know that? And then, you know, what trends are you seeing in the 504 and 7A? So I'll start with Peter. We'll start from the top again.
You said 7As and 504s. What trends are we seeing?
Yeah, so just what's it, you know, what is a 504 and what's a 7A? What trends are you seeing in it? And, you know, what do you guys, how much of either of the two do you guys work with within Genesis Bank?
We do, you know, we do a lot of 504s. You know, what's interesting about the 504 is, you know, purchases are down a bit across the market with where rates are. So the activity definitely is down from the purchase side, but we are seeing a little bit more of an uptick on the SBA 504 refi program, which lets clients refinance out their current loans with the 504. So we're seeing quite a bit of that. We are starting to see a little bit on the value side where appraisals aren't coming in a bit.
Okay.
So we're seeing conventional deals flip over to 504s on the refi side. From the 7A side, I leverage a lot of our partners here, where we help structure the deals up front and bring in a partner on the 7A side. But a lot of business purchase acquisition we're seeing on the 7A side, less real estate for me, more business acquisition. But I think where we're effective is we can structure some of the 504 products where, other banks are, falling off, especially with COVID in 2021. Numbers are a little off. It's hard to get back and understand the underwrite on where they were from 2009 to 2023. The trends are different. Companies are different with how business is done today than when it was then. So, we do a deep dive and try to understand that as much as possible and really get to the business operations. And we've turned a lot of deals that were declines with other banks into approvals here. And it's just understanding the financials and then giving them a fair price and not having them be gouged. So activity levels are down a bit, but still pretty active overall.
Great. Cliff Taylor, how about you?
At Ready Capital, we only utilize the 7A program. We do not do any 504 financing. So the biggest difference between the two, in general, your 504 is targeted at hard asset, primarily purchase or refinance. There's some exceptions in there. The 7A, we can use it for any valid business purchase. Any valid business use, whether it's a purchase of a business on a leasehold location or purchase of real estate. We have a lot of flexibility with the 7A. The 504, typically that's going to be a fixed rate product, especially over on the SBA side. The rate and the fees on the SBA portion, because it's a two-part loan, are the same no matter who you get the loan from. For the first mortgage portion, then that's going to be something you're going to negotiate with your lender. But again, the 504 SBA part is always going to be fixed for 20 or 25 years. The bank portion, again, you have to negotiate. The 7A loan, everything we do is a prime plus variable, and I think most lenders are at a prime plus variable. And those rates are going to vary and be set according to, typically on risk and term. Most of your tenure, which is non-real estate financing, stuff like that's all going to be probably around prime of 2.5, 2.75. Because again, if it's a 10-year term, you're usually looking at unsecured type stuff. 25-year, anywhere from prime and 1 up to prime and 2, and in that range. And again, we're very aggressive right now, looking for new loans and opportunities. So we're very open to referrals and making sure that everybody makes a buck. With Ready Capital.
Thanks, Cliff. Stephen, what about yourself?
Thanks, Stephen. It's a lot of what Cliff said. Just to put a finer point on it, so the 504 loans are typically longer term fixed rates. That's the classic. Borrower comes up, it's 50%, 40%, 10%, and you get longer term fixed rates. And for larger loan amounts, 504 is perfect. For a smaller loan amount, I always say 2 million and under. 7A is I think the better product. They can come in with 10% down, and it's a variable rate. It gets them into the property and they can refinance out of that. The 7A, it does have a prepayment penalty for the first 3 years. It gets them into the property. Oftentimes it can be projection based and they refinance out of it after 3 years. The 7A is pretty good, exactly what Cliff said, but 7A, we don't need real estate at all. My colleague Denise Peenan, I see she's on this call as well. She and I will lend for two partners. They're just not getting along. They got two brothers, family members, whatever. They got in bed together a few years ago and they had a good business and everything was great. But right now they're just not getting along and they need $1 million to buy one of them out. No real estate whatsoever. We can do that $1 million loan for that partner buyout. Or, as Cliff said, they might be buying a big piece of equipment for $500,000. We can finance that. Or even just some working capital. They want to hire some more people. They want to do some training. they want, they want to ramp up their web presence, just working capital for 200 grand or $1 million, or even just a flat out change of ownership. So, that Taco Bell is going from that's not the real estate, but the actual business entity is being sold, and they'll sell for a lot. And so that we can come in, they might not have any real estate, and it's just a change of ownership. That Taco Bell or that Burger King is being sold, and that's why the 7A program is it's a good program. And we do pay rebates on those. So you send us a $2 million deal, we'll pay you 2% rebate. So we'll pay you a $40,000 rebate, and that's kind of the big difference that I see between the 504 and the 7A. Again, 7A gets them into the deal,
Right.
and into the property. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, Steve.
Yeah, that's great. And then Jay, you're looking at this from a kind of a different perspective because of what you guys do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on, the 504 7A, your different, what you see as the difference between the two and how you guys deal with it.
Well, the SBA is, if there's commercial real estate, the SBA is going to, require some level of due diligence, depending on, their SOP. The 504, oftentimes we don't even know if it's a 504 or it's a 7A. It's not critical information. But, I will point out that the 504 program has a green energy loan program. So if the borrower can show that 10% or more of the energy use is from renewable sources, then they're eligible for that program, which I believe provides more funds. I don't know if there's a beneficial rate or not. So we will do some energy auditing as part of that 504 green lending program.
Okay.
That's really the biggest distinction that sticks out from my perspective, Stephen.
All right, great. And then Randy, how about yourself?
Yeah, so we're doing at Spectrum Commercial, we're doing like 95% SBA 504 loans. Like Peter was saying, we had a fairly good size uptick in the SBA 504 refinance program. And it's not only the real estate loans that we're looking to take out, whether they're 7As or bridge loans or hard money loans. You can also put business debt in there too, and they go up to 85 or 90%. So it's popular. But the thing is, though, is that we're still busy with purchases, and the fact of the matter is that things happen to people, things happen to businesses. For instance, doing a loan right now for a company that their landlord says you need to get out by October 1st because we are chopping down your building. So if they want to stay in business, they had to do something, and so they had to find a new building, and we're gonna finance the new building. And so then the thing is that we're also busy because we see a lot of the banks are cutting back, and since that's all we do is lending, we don't do any deposits or anything like that.
Right.
We're busy in both the meaty B and also some of the lean A stuff too that we're seeing. So yeah, we're seeing it basically on both ends. And so when there's a downturn, usually it's an uptick for Spectrum Commercial.
Great.
Back to you, Steve.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. There's still deals being done. I think everybody can attest to that. Maybe deal volumes down a little bit. Well, it dipped down a little bit. There are definitely still purchases. We're on the title side. We see both the investment side as well as owner occupied transactions, owner user transactions. Things are taking a little bit longer to close. And so just kind of really would love to get some thoughts from each of you on, what trends are you seeing and are things taking a little bit longer? And if they are, what issues or hurdles are you seeing to get things across the finish line now? So Peter, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it's really, I think the underwrites where the slowdown is, banks are pulling out in the middle of a deal with the credit process. I think that's probably the biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
I think everyone's on the fence on whether they're lending or not lending, or certain industries, or on certain real estate types. So although it comes in on the front end, I think by the time you get to credit, I think those are where the delays are, which then hold up all the reports. But from an SBA side and just conventional side, we're not seeing a lot of delays on the environmental side. With Jay, we're not seeing it on the appraisal side either. And the 504 actually is coming back. The approvals are coming back much quicker than they were before because volume's down in general across the US. So overall, I would say the underwrite is probably where I'd focus. And if you can vet out all the issues early, then you'd be in good shape.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm curious,
Um,
Peter, why are people pulling out? I haven't had that experience. I'd like to know why underwriting's backing out of loans.
Well, I just think credit people are getting a little shaky these days.
Yeah.
When they're looking at the portfolio and people are starting to play more defense than they are offense. Rates are when you're starting to get all the renewals and additional financials in from 22, you're starting to see the, deterioration in some of the trends. And I think that's what's affecting, credit. And the more of those they see, the shakier they get. So you just got to be confident with every deal that you're bringing in and make sure you cover the issues early versus later.
Yeah,
Thank
Peter, we see that on our end too. Like a lot more deals just get canceled during due diligence than what we're used to.
Yeah.
Just because they're not working out for other reasons, and then we get the notice, hey, this one didn't go, cancel the due diligence. So
Yeah, you're seeing that on the rates.
Yeah.
People they're offering a rate and then rates are, they're like, wait a minute, we got to get a little bit more. Deposit costs are going up, and you're starting to see banks say, well, you know what, we're offering you 6.5. Well, now, it's gonna be 7. And that I think, Kathy, that's what we're seeing also drop off as well, besides the underwrite.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I definitely see, as deals do take longer, you're getting deals where they might have been at 6.5, but for prolonging any time, that has the, implications of the rate increasing, which can kill a deal. Some of these are, underwritten so tightly that, half a quarter or even a 0.5% can really just put the whole deal in jeopardy. So, thank you so much, Peter, for that. Steve, what are your thoughts with regard to that? What trends are you seeing, and then is there any type of challenges that you see with regards to deals and just taking a little bit longer?
It's kind of what you guys touched on, where we actually, oddly, we are having borrowers where they give us a big deposit, a $10,000 deposit to order the MII appraisal and to order the phase 1, and
Right.
they're putting the kibosh on it 60 days in, and just either getting alternative financing or going into just canceling the deal outright. So, and in addition to that, we see sellers right now. The landlord of an owner-occupied business, they're not wanting to sell the business to that tenant, but they're coming in with ridiculously high prices where, they don't have any data to support what that building is worth other than their gut feeling. And we have a couple deals where they're trying to negotiate it directly with the tenant. They may or may not have a commercial realtor involved, but they're still thinking that things are really strong right now, and things are good. But I think there's going to be a market adjustment that the sellers have to be a little bit more realistic in their selling prices. And then just lastly, the buyers or borrowers, it's expensive money. My colleague Denise on this call as well, she and I are pricing everything at prime plus 1 right now,
Right.
which prime is at 8.25 plus 1%. That's 9.25. The folks on the hard money, the private money lending, that's almost in their world. So borrowers they're growling at us and saying, I'm not paying you guys 9.25. And you're telling me it's a variable interest rate, subject to change quarterly. None of us know Jerome Powell. We're not related to anybody at the Federal Reserve, perhaps, but nobody knows what that's going to be looking like. So it's just strange and uncertain times. So those are the couple of things that we're seeing at our credit union at Key Point.
Great. Cliff?
Boy, Steve hit on a lot of the challenges. Yeah, it's rates are up, which, hey, payments are higher. If somebody's buying an established business, it's a little harder to hit the debt service numbers that we need to see, based on a price from a year ago. So yeah, the sellers are having a hard adjustment in the fact that prices are coming down. Valuations are also starting to follow, depending on your business, multiples are falling a little bit. So yeah, and hand in hand with rates being up, I do see some changes here lately. People are starting to get used to the fact that, hey, this is the new normal. The fact when we had 3.25 prime, that was not normal, that was abnormal.
Yeah.
And someone had said earlier today, that some of us are just a little grayer. And we've been through some of these ups and downs before, and you know, it doesn't seem that long ago to me, but it was 20 years ago that, hey, we were lending money at these rates, you know, all the time. And, you know, we can even go back further than that, but this is nothing new. But I do see movement now. People are understanding, hey, we're getting near the top. So, you know, at least, you know, we're not going to get hurt on the upside like some of the folks did on, you know, that borrowed at cheaper money and overpriced businesses and properties. So, hey, you know, looking forward, you know, we can see that our payments and our rates will stay the same and maybe come down. And, you know, people are getting a little bit more used to the fact that, hey, we're going to have to lower the price on what we're selling, or we're going to have to carry something for a while. You know, maybe not require some payments for a while. We work with buyers and sellers on structuring some of that seller carry, either as down payment or, you know, as semi-equity, where if there's not any payments allowed for a while, hey, we don't have to count the debt service on that. Also, starting August 1st, SBA has actually unbelievably changed the SOP, you know, dramatically for the better. It's going to make it a lot easier to do some very, very low down payment transactions for borrowers. Lenders are going to have a lot more leeway in how we interpret the SOP. Some of the SOP interpretations have went away, as I understand it, except for some, you know, some extreme examples in the franchise area, such as 7-Eleven, that the franchise directory is going to be going away. There's going to be a lot of SBA calls it "do what you do" when we're looking at refinances and some different items. Hey, we're going to follow our own lending guidelines.
Right.
It's actually a good thing. So, you know, I'm trying to have my glass very, very, very half full right now. You know, because it's a little slow. And again, that's why we're really aggressive looking for more deals. And sorry, I'll talk all day. You know me.
That's fine. No, great information. Randy?
Yeah, I mean, we streamlined our underwriting process, but I have to agree with Peter and Stephen. We're seeing these loans that are just abandoned by or whatever by banks, and then they're coming to us. As the borrower sees it, it's just adding on to the process. And the second thing we're seeing is the third-party reports. You know, when I started way back in the late 90s, it was a rarity to see a phase 2. And 4 out of my last 5 transactions have gone to a phase 2. One has gone to a phase 3, whatever you want to call that.
Wow.
So it's the state of California, because most of what we do is there. So
Okay.
it's because of them. But and then also appraisals, SBA is getting a little bit more difficult with them. Excess land is an issue. So I just came back with got a short appraisal because of that. So yeah, and that's definitely adding on to the process. But the SBA was pretty bad around COVID at the end of, let's say at the end of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot better, and they're decisioning their loans now in about 3 or 4 business days, which is good. But yeah, you know, when I'm telling people we really should look at an 8-week escrow period. I'm getting some pushback, but then again, I have people that say, you know what, that does make sense. So mostly it's okay.
Light speed.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, you know, Peter, you know, knocked it out of the park right out of the gate. It's really, you know, when you're taking the next question was really like, how long are these loans taking? It's based on how much information, that underwriting that you get to the bank out of the gate, so you can answer all the questions. Because, you know, a lot of things that do fall out or the lender might back out is because they might not have had all the information up front And so it's really important for that owner user to make sure that they're checking all the boxes and all the due diligence items to get that stuff done. Because otherwise, I mean, you could be sitting there for 5-6 weeks and at the end they just walk away because you didn't provide them with all the information and they were just waiting on that one thing. So, with all that being said, I mean, what are your guys' forecasts for the rest of this year? I mean, we're closing in on, which is absolutely insane to think that July 1st is right around the corner. So half of this year is already gone. What are your guys' forecasts and what do you see the lending market looking like between now and the end of December? So.
Hey, I'll chime in. Transaction volume obviously is way down, but I feel like over the last 6 months or so, the SBA has been a little bright spot. I've continued to see RFPs for SBA deals. It seems like there hasn't been as much of a slowdown on the SBA lending as there have on other loan products. So, that's been good from our perspective. And then just to speak to Randy really quickly, he's probably right. There's some regulations in California that are pretty stringent, especially as it relates to vapor intrusion. And just in general, consultants are looking more, the vapors, whether it's offside or some historical use of solvent, like, Randy, that olive oil distribution, right? Were they doing fleet fueling, before the current tenant and they didn't properly abandon those underground storage tanks, and then we're going to go in there and do a phase 2, right? So there's always little hidden things around the corner. And SBA tends to have a lot of industrial kind of owner user product, manufacturing widgets or whatever. And we're gonna key in on some of those vapor intrusion issues if there's any risk there. And part of that's because the state has set these really stringent levels of concern that we have to identify. And then in terms of, our outlook, we're a pretty good barometer for the industry, right? We see every kind of deal, a breadth of deals. And we're pretty bullish on the second half. We think now that this interest rate, I know there's still some flexing or some fluxing, and we'll see. There's maybe going to be a couple more increases, but we feel like investors are starting to kind of settle down with the interest rate risk, and they're going to start deploying capital, and we're expecting a decent second half of the year.
Great, thanks, Jay. Anyone else?
And so Steve, I'll jump on Jay.
Yeah,
I think it's important what Jay said. It's, he just basically gave Randy a quick synopsis of what he thinks could happen there. Not always saying that that's how it's going to come up on the phase 1, but I would say call Jay and just say, hey, look, I got this property, run it by him. He'll give you in 2 seconds to tell you, well, look for this, ask these questions, and that could help alleviate, and you can get ahead of it on the timing and partner with the engineering firm, and that will get you 10 steps ahead of every other lender out there from a lending standpoint, from a client standpoint. Make sure your transaction that the buyer and the seller can agree upon some of the issues that may be there that people don't think are going to come up. Everyone thinks their property's clean, just like it's the highest valued one in the neighborhood. So you see that.
Well, Peter, real quick, you talk about not getting information from the borrowers, right? And then we recommend a phase 2, and all of a sudden some old phase 2 comes out of the woodwork that was sitting
every time. Every time. Oh, I got one. Here you go. I don't want to show it to you. So it's just important just to ask those questions. You'd be surprised what you find. When I look at the outlook, I'm a little bit different than Jay. I think on the investor side, yes, there's some capital that will come in. I think on the owner user side, I think it's going to be a longer haul. I think the rates, people haven't adjusted to them, and those payments are much greater. It's affecting the underwrite. Those debt service coverages are a little harder to meet. Right. I think there's a lot of people that are just got some great rates before, are going to try to make, kind of just like their homes, are going to make their business work for them. Maybe stretch out some space, rent some additional space somewhere else. But I think the next 6 months will be interesting, but it'd be nice for something to break and just bottom out so that we can move forward beyond this nonsense. But I just think there's too many unknowns and nothing's really broken yet. And I think until then, we're gonna just stay in this, unequal, playing field. It's a little off. So I would just, try to be 10 steps ahead of anything else you can be on a purchase, a refi, or anything you can do.
All set, Peter.
Yeah, and our outlook is actually pretty bullish. And and by the way, Jay, I maybe I didn't say it correctly, but it's the state of California that's really driving a lot of this. Interestingly enough, all of my loans right now are in California and one's in New Jersey. The two states in the union that are the most stringent when it comes down to environmental. Absolutely, positively, and I got them. Now we're looking at the ones that are tougher. So they would fall out, and they're coming back to us. So we're actually pretty bullish on the second half. And again, people are doing things. They're having to buy, and we're just seeing that. I think people are coming back to the realization, as my friend said, all my friends here said, that the new normal is in the fives and sixes, and it's probably going to go plus or minus a little bit. But I think people are coming to the realization that that's where it's at. Certainly, we're looking at some of these refinances; they're becoming more popular, and people are saying, you know what, we better do something, and better do something now. So we're actually doing pretty good. And again, we tend to be countercyclical. Back to you, Steve.
Great. Cliff, anything for you?
Yeah, before I talk about what we think we're gonna do the rest of the year, as long as we're all nerding out a little bit on this environmental, I do quite a few gas stations, so I'm sort of a closet environmental nerd. And yeah, one thing about California is, in my opinion, I really don't think it's California that's driving some of this stuff. I mean, as far as the Jay Grenfields of the world, I mean, you have a certain threshold and a bar that you have to look at these properties and requirements. Yeah, the vapor intrusion, every time there's a gas station or something like that, you got to deal with that type of thing. And like you're saying, getting all the information you can up front. But one thing about California is the record keeping here is very good. There's actually a website with the state of California, Department of Water Quality, called GeoTracker. And you can really do yourself a favor, whether you're a realtor or a lender, checking that thing out every single time. And because people will say, oh, there's no tanks, or oh, they're brand new. You can go on there and you can figure out a lot of your potential problems right up front. You might have a great property, but you've got a site next door that's used to be an ag chemical distributorship, and it's been hot for years. You never know what you're going to run into.
Right.
And
Can you say that site again? Repeat the site.
It's called GeoTracker. With the state of California Department of Water Quality. And when you get into other states, because we do stuff nationwide, like as soon as I go into Nevada, that's like automatic phase 2, and not because my phase 1 engineer is being a bad guy. They have just shitty record keeping over there. You don't know what happened, and you don't know when it happened. And so whenever something is unsure, that's when they have to do a phase 2, is when there's something unsure. And usually we come out okay, and Texas is a pain in the neck. Yeah, New Jersey's got a lot of rules, because my gosh, they've been pouring crap in the ground back there, for hundreds of years. Jeff, who's on the call here, was working on something, and man, it was like 3 Mile Island and the Love Canal all mixed together on that property. So anyway, hey, as far as what we see the rest of the year, we're aggressive. Like I keep saying, we want more loans. We're not backing off of our goals, and we're going to try to get out there and do everything we can to make it happen. So anyway, Cliff Taylor, Ready Capital.
Thanks, Cliff. Steve, how about yourself?
So what we're seeing at Key Point, Denise, Peanut, and I, typically year over year, we do about $100 million of loans to both SBA and investment real estate. Might be a little bit less, might be a little bit more than that 100 million.
Okay.
So right now we should have about 40 or 50 million out the door. This is the first time in my entire career. My ego is bigger than Alaska. I don't have a deal in the pipeline now, and we've only funded about $15 million year to date. And we're probably going to be amending the goal for the second half of the year. We have 48 partners that have been aggressively buying from us out the back door for the last 11 years. So we fund it, and then they'll buy from us a day later, a week later, a month later. None of them are knocking on our door right now. So we're asking them what's going on, and what these 48 partners are saying. They're having some liquidity issues, or when lenders, based on their current environment, lenders are, they oftentimes, and not just credit unions, we have banks buying from us as well, and private investors. They'll take kind of a wait and see approach. So that's what we're seeing with our 48 partners. So we might amend our goal and finish the year maybe at $30 million if we have a good second half of the year, but we're definitely not going to be anywhere near that $100 million. And that's tough for somebody like me. And so that's what we're seeing is just, we're kind of gun shy now. We're definitely not lending on anything office space unless it's, owner occupied. And, perfect example of that, our building was right across from the Levi Stadium in Santa Clara. We had a 100,000 square foot building, and we sold that right in the middle of the pandemic. And we made a big bucket of money, and we moved into a 24,000 square foot building. And we used to, we needed the big building, and then we thought we needed 24,000 square feet. And nowadays, when I pull into the office, maybe once or twice every other week, it's just my car and 6 other cars.
Yeah.
And we had, 220 employees working out of the big 100,000 square foot building.
Right.
And right now it's my 1976 Ford Pinto sitting there, along with a few other cars there. And there's just nobody's coming into the office. So we've asked our employees, hey, do you want to come back in? And they said, do we have to? And, it worked for the last 3 years. And we had some employees, we had, a single mom who was living in Santa Cruz. She had 3 kids. And she had a 2-bedroom and she was paying, $3,000 a month for that. Well, she moved to Whitefish, Montana, and she bought, the biggest house in town, and her mortgage, she's making a Bay Area income, and her mortgage payment is nothing. It's a fraction of what her rent was here. So we've had out of our 220 employees, we had a ton of people move to Milwaukee and Atlanta and Fort Lauderdale. We had just a ton of staff move out. So we think there's still a lot more, I don't want to be total doom and gloom because we're all in origination here, so we're paid to be, we need to always be optimistic, but we think it's going to get it's going to be a lot uglier for the second half of the year and going into the next year.
I knew that Pinto was Stevens. I knew it. The green Pinto was Stevens. I knew that was yours, Steven.
Peter, you're jealous of that. You wish you had that car and you wish you could drive that.
I mean, the rusted rims, actually, I am jealous of the rusted rims.
Just with my ego and my body size, I can barely fit in it. I look like a sardine, but hey, it works. It works.
I'm not kidding. I'd love to see you in a Pinto. That would
That'd
be great.
You got to send a picture next time. That should be like your picture when we do this next time, Steve.
Yeah, sorry.
And just recently, the Fed's finally put a stall on the interest rates. I mean, we've been seeing increases going for a while now. How is that impacting your guys' business, knowing that we finally just put it, like, they're stalling it? We do believe that there's going to be additional increases before the end of the year. Is that affecting your guys' forecast for the next couple of months, knowing that at least for 1 month we've got a pause on the rates?
Absolutely, Stephen, with Key Point, absolutely. So we're kind of in a holding pattern for now.
Anyone else?
I think it's kicking up a little bit. People are jumping on deals that maybe they wouldn't have because they think rates are going to go up and that they're flat. So we'll keep them thinking that way. It's good.
Yeah,
So,
to what Peter said, a lot of our kind of institutional investor clients, I mean, they've been on the sidelines. I'm starting to see them come back into the market and look at deals, certainly just in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, people are looking at these. I'm getting these kind of more in-depth financial questions from these folks that I really hadn't seen in the past. So they're definitely looking.
No, I agree. I mean, there's been a lot of deals where people were just kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what happens with these interest rates. And we've seen activity definitely picking up over the past couple of weeks. We see things across all different aspects. So, Jay, I think we're a good barometer to, like yourself. We're kind of seeing all different things. And I think that was a definite positive for them to put a pause. Now, there is the flip side, which is, would it be better for them just to raise it another 50 basis points and say, okay, we've hit rock bottom and now let's work from there. So there's two sides of each side of that story, but just any additional thoughts with regard to that to anybody?
No, I agree with you. I wish they would do that.
Yeah.
And just get it done, peel the Band-Aid off and just be done with it.
Yeah.
It would be good for all of us.
I agree.
Don't see them doing it.
Yeah, once everybody knows where we're at, and that's happening, and I'm like Steve, I don't have a whole lot working right now. I'm trying to be positive. I'm seeing some activity out there. So I'll keep kissing toads for a while.
Jay, any comments?
No, I mean, in terms of environmental risk, since this is an owner user panel,
Yeah,
the SBA drives risk tolerances for lenders, right? They've got very prescriptive requirements. There was a point in time where we would say, well, this dry cleaner was only there for a few years. You're good, right? The SBA has come out and said, hey, any dry cleaner, if it was there for a week, it's an automatic phase 2, right?
Yeah.
And then lenders just fell in line. And now if there's any hint of a dry cleaner, if we can't prove it was a drop-off location, you could expect to see a phase 2. Whereas prior to the SBA coming out with that very prescriptive requirement, there was a little flexibility perhaps in the duration of dry cleaning. So the SBA is a big factor in driving risk management as well.
Yeah, for sure. Another question I've got for everybody is, there's so much, across the country, loan maturities. There's so many loans that are going to be maturing over the next 36 months. Is that going to, what are your thoughts with regard to so many of those coming up over, I'm talking nationwide, over the next 18 to 24 months? How is that impacting your guys' strategy with regard to you getting new deals? And just kind of would love to hear your thoughts with regard to all that maturity that's coming due up in the next 18 to 24 months.
So this is Stephen with KeyPoint. So Denise and I, we're hearing more and more these days, this is going to be a cash-in refinance. And that's just a term you don't hear that often. Even though I'm old, I was actually on the Titanic and I survived. I just hadn't heard, but that was just a failure. Nobody laughed at that one. So having a cash-in refinance, it's like, wow, I hadn't heard that as much up until lately, where it's cool that borrowers know they have to come up with some cash. Not all of them, so it's a brave new world. It's an interesting concept that I'm hearing more and more of.
Yeah.
Cliff Taylor here, Ready Capital. Steve, I was muted. I almost laughed at your joke, but it's like, okay. But hey, the refinances that are coming up, that coupled with the banks that are pulling back, either getting out of the market or the chief credit officers that are getting cold feet, and boards of directors that are getting cold feet. Those are the things we're counting on.
Yeah.
We're looking at that and saying we're going to have a lot of opportunity. I know that there have been a number of banks that have just said, hey, we're backing off. We're backing off for now. Let people go, let underwriters go, let salespeople go. And that's hey, I'm always happy to be there when somebody gets stood up for the prom. I'll take them. So
Yeah.
I tell you, for us, Peter Yakub and I are former B of A guys, and we know exactly how these risk executives think.
Right.
Know that they're pulling back right now. So for us, for owner user, it's good. I mean, it's we're getting these loans that are maturing that they come to us, and again, an owner user, but we're able to to do this and with the cash in refis, Stephen, as long as it's business debt, we can go up to 85 or 90%. So it works out good for us.
Nice.
Yeah,
Peter?
and look, I'll say, look, everyone's pretty much covered it. I think I'm the only actual bank that's a bank lender, I think on right now on the panel. But we're de novo, so our portfolio, we don't have a lot of portfolio issues because we started a couple of years ago. I think Randy hit it. I think the big banks and all the banks have large portfolios. When these terms come due, when they're in the 3% and now they're 7%, I think there's going to be some downgrades, and I think the downgrades are going to drive some of the issues on these banks pulling back, which is going to be great for Randy, Cliff, and everyone that says, it's a 7A lender, 504 lender, non-bank. I think they're gonna get a ton of business, and it's gonna start going that way. But that's also that's where I'm not as bullish on the next 6 to 12 months until these people start every bank figures out what their portfolio looks like and where it stands. So I think that's where we're gonna see things. But I think for us, all of us here on this panel, the opportunities are coming. We just gotta be patient.
Great.
Peter, I agree with that, where I think all of us, we're kind of
Oh, I
storybook
forgot Stephen
lenders.
was on. Stephen, I didn't mean to leave you out. Stephen's a bank lender too. My bad.
So no,
Steve.
no, it's the same. We're kind of all storybook lenders, and that's, I think there will be some opportunities because I think I certainly know Randy Jones thinks outside the box. That he doesn't even know what the hell the box is, and that's kind of how SBA loans are. It's a story, it's a storybook type of deal, and I know we all do that. Cliff does that. Peter, you do that. We all, and that's a good thing. That there will be opportunities for exactly that.
Great. All right, we're down to about the last 8 minutes, so I'll leave each of you with 1 to 2 minutes, just some takeaways for the all the attendees here, and then we'll close up. So Peter, we'll start with you.
Oh, last minute. No, I think we covered a lot of it. So,
Yeah.
if you're just looking for help on a deal, we are trying to grow the bank by giving back our knowledge. The executive team and everybody here at Genesis has big bank experience, and we're here to build a bank. So it's a good time to join us. Our technology is cutting edge. We have all the services for any type of real estate, from 1031 exchange to an escrow company in-house, which makes things much more flexible than others. So we can pretty much handle your deal from A to Z here. And the team is open-minded. We're looking outside the box. We will customize around any broker, deal types. And if we can't, then we'll find a place for you. So we'd love to connect with you. If you just want to chat about what's going on in the market, we'd love to do that as well. We're all here to do that for you.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. Clifford?
Thanks.
Taylor, Ready Capital SBA. I'll just say that, hey, like I say, we're aggressively active right now. We're making some really positive strides in our closing. I actually have a boutique 11-room hotel on closing on Friday down Palm Springs. It's a projection-based deal. We're doing it at 80% loan to value, and actually, we moved up the closing by a week. We were moving right along, and our new things we put in place are working. And my head spun all the way around when I found out we were moving things up. But no, we're aggressive right now. Jeff, that works with me here at Ready Capital on my team, he closed a privately held barbecue and bar deal a few months ago. So we're looking at all kinds of different things, and we want to do more deals. Cliff Taylor, Ready Capital SBA.
Great. Thanks, Cliff. Randy?
Randy Jones, Spectrum Commercial. Yeah, I mean, we have our own money, so we're making our own decisions. We're not competing per se with the larger banks. But I don't think the larger banks are interested in doing gas stations with a car wash on them, or hot dog stands on the beach, or daycare centers or things like that. I mean, we're definitely have our own niche, a little higher in the rates, but and then also for the borrowers that are a little bit more, they're just not going up at 10% annually on their revenues, and their cash flow is pinched a little bit. I mean, there's just a lot of deals out there that we're looking at that the banks just don't want to do, and so we're definitely seeing a pickup. And again, we're bullish on the second half.
Great.
Steve, back to you.
With that, I'll pass it off to Steve.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody. So what we're seeing, I love it when borrowers talk to other lenders. In fact, I encourage that. Talk to Randy Jones, talk to Peter Yakub, talk to Cliff. Well, you guys I don't recommend as much, but I love it even more when they talk to the Bank of Americas or the Wells Fargos or the U.S. banks, because
Right.
Those lenders are amazing, and there might be some listeners from them. But they're amazing, but they have these really delineated credit boxes. And I think everybody on this call, we listen to the story, and we lend outside the box. So oftentimes they'll have a more complete package after they talk to those shops, and it's taken 8 weeks to get to know, and then we can come in and we all look like heroes. And so that's, but I do recommend everybody to talk to other lenders. And we are seeing more, because kind of what's happened in the resi world, we're seeing a lot more residential brokers move into the commercial world as well. And we welcome that as well. So that's kind of what I have to say in closing. Thank you, Steve. Back to you.
And then Jay, I'll pass it off to you to close us out here, bud.
Oh, thank you. Obviously the SBA has environmental policies, lenders have environmental policies on smaller deals, but we can be a resource for your clients, especially if they're purchasing a property in terms of other services, property condition assessments.
Survey.
We just rolled out partner valuation advisories, so we're in the appraisal business now. Alta surveys, zoning reports. So there's a host of other services that, if you've got a borrower and they're concerned about the roof, or someone's expressing something about the building, even though there might only be an environmental due diligence policy required, let me know. I'm happy to be a resource for other services as well. That's all I got.
Great. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank the panel here. Also all the attendees for sitting in and just listening to us today. I think we covered a lot of great things with regard to owner user, SBA 504(7)A, where we all think the market's at today, where it's going, where we think the opportunities are. So as Arnie said, he'll send out everybody's contact information. I definitely encourage you to reach out to everybody on this panel when you do have deals that you're looking to get and underwrite, as well as reaching out to Jay, especially on all those auxiliary, third-party reports and surveys, and just, especially when using SBA. So with that, my name's Steve Stem for Chicago Title, and I really, truly appreciate everybody's time today, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody. That was really informative.
Steve, do we have time for maybe a question or two?
Sure, great. Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. Yeah, any questions out there on the audience? Crickets.
I mean, we covered it. I like that.
That's a good thing. That means we all did our jobs today, right? That's great.
Well, it's Randy's meaty B that gets it.
No. It's meaty B.
Sorry, meaty B. He always goes into that wall.
The one other takeaway is hopefully, Steve, you can send us a picture of that Pinto, because I really do want to see a picture of you in the Pinto.
Well, he upgraded. He was driving the Gremlin before, and
That's absolutely correct.
He upgraded to the Pinto.
And prior to that, it was the El Camino.
Oh my goodness.
We call that vintage automobiles.
I drove a Country Squire station wagon, Ford Country Squire station wagon. I was so scared of it. I was driving between lanes because it was so huge.
Oh man.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, again. I truly do appreciate it.